And welcome to Directors Club. I am your host, Jim Laskowski, and my returning guest today clearly loved directors named Frank. Because they were on a couple years ago for Frank Oz, and they're back once again to talk about another Frank, the renowned, beloved Frank Capra. And I could not be more happy to welcome back the hosts of A Tripp Through Comedy, a joyful podcast that I always look forward to, my buddies Ross and Tripp. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim. So excited to be here.
Oh, this is great.
And talking about truly one of the greats.
Yes.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. Now I got to think of a third Frank. Now that you brought this up, I didn't even think about this.
Yeah.
Is there a third Frank director?
Well, we could go Frank Borzage, who I believe beat Frank Capra for the Oscar once. And Frank Capra, the story I've heard, Frank Capra was halfway up to the stage before he realized that it was a different Frank who had beaten him. So
oh no.
There we go. Yeah.
Almost a Zoolander.
Well, we got okay. I'm just this is such a silly thing to do, but of course I looked up filmmakers named Frank, and we have Frank Darabont.
Oh,
of course.
There we go.
Yeah, which would be nice. Hold on, Frank Henenlotter. That would be a lot of fun. And of course,
we have done one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the director of The Waterboy, Frank Carassi or Karachi?
Oh, there we go.
We usually save Torturing Trip with Adam Sandler movies for our podcast, but I mean, look, I'm here. I'm here for what I'm sure is a beautiful oeuvre that he had.
Oh yes.
Oh, boy.
That would be fun. And, you know, it's pretty wild. I just got done listening to your latest episode, and listening to Tripp talk about The Wizard, I was smiling the entire time. I was so happy to hear somebody, not necessarily sing the praises of it because you haven't seen it in a while, but, I mean, it's just one of those things where, I liked that movie as a kid, and I don't know if I want to revisit it.
No.
You don't need to.
Enough
I probably not. Yeah.
Sometimes it's best to keep movies like that in your memory, and you just go I had a great time with that. And it was designed for me at that era, and it worked for me. And, you know what? We'll just keep it there.
Oh, yeah. But, of course, as a huge music nerd, I love Jenny Lewis. So I'm just glad to see how her career evolved.
She's great.
Yeah, she really is. But anyway, let's just do this because as we discussed initially, most people know who Frank Capra is. And as much as I would love to be like Blank Check and just go through every single title from directors that I choose, it's hard to make the time. And let's face it, a lot has been said about films like It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of other films for this episode, one of which is definitely well known, but the earlier one, not so much.
It was my first picture after being in the Army for about 5 years. I was scared to death. I have not looked through the eyepiece of a camera of an actor in all that length of time. What would my first film be about? It certainly wasn't going to be about war. I had my belly full of war, and I came out a terrific pacifist. So what would it be about? A man from RKO, he came in, he said, I've got the story for you. Well, boy, it happened 100 times a day. I've got just the story for you. We got 3 scripts on it. One script was by Mark Conley, one by Dalton Trumbo, one by Clifford Odets. 3 powerhouse guys had written scripts on this thing. They missed the idea. I said, what idea? He said, the idea I got when I bought this Christmas card. And in about 9 paragraphs, there was this story. A man who was a failure was given the opportunity to come back and see the world as it would have been had he not been born. And he finds out no man is a failure. Well, my goodness, this thing hit me like a ton of bricks.
Ross, like most of us, I would assume your first exposure to Capra was the celebrated Christmas classic. Is that true?
It's probably not, because it's I am Jewish, And It's a Wonderful Life would obviously be on around that time, but it's not like something that obviously me and my family would necessarily have watched. So it's one of those things that I came to that movie actually much later. It might have been something like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, or It Happened One Night. Like, as you're starting to become that cinephile and you're like, oh, Frank Capra, he's kind of a big deal, and I probably need to dig into him. And so it might have actually been something like that, because I came kind of late to seeing like It's a Wonderful Life in its complete entirety.
Yeah, same with me. And it's one of those too where I was thinking, I know I saw It's a Wonderful Life on TV maybe as a kid, but it was more of just like, okay, it's on, my parents are watching it, but I wasn't fully engaged with it. Like as an adult, that movie plays very differently. It's just, it's funny when I think back to when I interviewed Stephen Tobolowsky right after the passing of Harold Ramis, and Frank Capra came up because I compared Groundhog Day to a Frank Capra movie and just kind of went, Capra always had this hint of darkness. And what made me think of that too is like, oh yeah, there's that kind of like really heavy kind of like montage in Groundhog Day that is kind of played for laughs, but it's also really sad, as when Phil is basically attempting suicide in many different ways. And I always was like, even when I was younger and I first saw that movie, it really took me aback. And the same thing occurred with, It's a Wonderful Life. So it's like, we'll get into it more in depth, but Capra just always sneaks in something really intense or dark or unexpected for films of this era. So Tripp, what was your first experience with Capra?
So I'm the same. I did not really grow up with It's a Wonderful Life. It was just not sort of one of the movies. I think it was seeing Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in high school. Like, I definitely remember watching it in government class in high school, right around the same time that the AFI 100 movie list came out, which became like my first primer of movies to watch. I watched high school, early college. I finished that entire list of 100 movies. And it was sort of my introduction to, classic film in the history of cinema, of Hollywood cinema, at least. And I think Capra had 4 or 5 movies on that list, and so it was Mr. Smith, and then it just, from there, discovering all of them.
No, I think that's, I'm fairly certain, now that I think about it, and I know I must have seen It's a Wonderful Life before seeing one of the movies we're going to discuss, Arsenic and Old Lace in it's funny because like I had a regular traditional speech class in high school where we just, have to give speeches in front of the whole class and feel really uncomfortable. Yeah. But then we had speech 2, which covered film. So it was just basically like a film class. And we also were in a drama class, and what tied that all together was like we read the play Arsenic and Old Lace, and we watched the film adaptation of that. And so that like in high school, I got to see that. Like that was one of my first experiences seeing an older film besides like, Citizen Kane and To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah. So it's going to be fun to talk about that one. And early on though, just a little bit of background because it's just really interesting. And of course, I am going to link in the show notes I don't want to say a much better podcast, but of course, one who does her research like no other, Karina Longworth. Man, you must remember this. That episode on Frank Capra is it's more focused on him as a person, which is really just fascinating to listen to. And it's instantly made me want to read a couple of books that she brings up. So I'm going to link to that if you want to learn more about him and his history and his background and the fact that he was kind of a jerk at times, but a lot of filmmakers are. Anyway, like early on, he started out, in silent comedy and became a gag writer for Hal Roach and Keystone Studios. But his big break really came at Columbia, which was then this Poverty Row studio run by Harry Cohn. And it's just interesting to think about, like, early on, Columbia was just thought of as like this B picture movie studio that nobody took seriously until It Happened One Night happened. And wow, like it won so many awards. It won the major awards, and that's something that didn't happen until many, many, many years later with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But yeah, like the early 1930s, you know, he was at the forefront making just like these damn good talkies, and you know, decided that like, oh, actors don't need to speak like they're on stage, you know, or that they don't need to speak slowly. It was sort of the birth of screwball like delivery in terms of comedy and pacing and energy. And a lot of this has to do with his partnership with Robert Riskin, the screenwriter, who just, he had these like really sharp, socially conscious scripts that were also really funny and full of interesting characters. But yeah, like just at the very beginning, you know, he started out a little shaky, but then like, it eventually became, you know, kind of one of the most sought after filmmakers for good reason, especially with the success of It Happened One Night, which is, you know, still, it's hard to like, once we get to the end of this podcast and we have to rank our top three, it's really difficult. It really is, because like, I think a lot of them are just like damn near masterpieces, if not masterpieces. So it's, but yeah, It Happened One Night is a really special film early on. But yeah, like just his history and his background is really fascinating. And I can't wait to read one of his autobiographies, the name above the title, because a lot of people cite that as being really interesting. But yeah,
it's a movie that I actually rewatched like yesterday. It Happened One Night, just because I was like, I knew we were going to do this, and I was like, all right, well, let me just also kind of throw that on. And that movie just still, it is the text if you want to do a truly fantastic romantic comedy.
Yes,
it is unreal. The chemistry between Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert, it's unreal. The patter. It's such an effective movie, and it works, and you care about these characters, and you have such a fun time that you can see the DNA of that basically for the next, 80 to 90 years of film, trying to recreate whatever that is, that the alchemy that worked for that.
Well, I feel like so much of what Capra did, he created the text for so many types of films, right? Like It Happened One Night, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is sort of the text for, political dramas and for, patriotic films. And It's a Wonderful Life is its own sort of text of things. Yet you watch them, and as compared to watching a lot of those other types of films where you're like, okay, I see where you have laid the bones for everyone to like accelerate this, right? Or elevate this. They're still also among the best of their examples, yes, everyone has taken It Happened One Night and copied it to death and, found a million other ways to do it. But it's probably still one of the best romantic comedies too, it's still so watchable today. That's what amazed me watching both of these movies again, is just how still they're very classic Hollywood, but how fast-paced and just watchable they are,
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, even when they're over, if somebody was just like, the next day, I haven't seen that, I'd be like, all right, let's put it on again. Yeah. I just watched it yesterday, but I could happily watch it again. A lot of his protagonists were idealistic, and that can lead us right into the conversation about American Madness, a movie that I just sort of randomly came across, and I was like, oh, Frank Capra made this pre-code movie, and Walter Houston is the star, or is the lead. Sign me up, I'm in. And I was just like, this is damn near perfect. It's like an 80-minute movie that I was like, how did they fit so much into, like, and make it all kind of fully fleshed out and fully realized, and you think of this as a precursor to It's a Wonderful Life for obvious reasons, because it does involve a bank and, just a lot of certain elements play out in a very similar way. But it was filmed at a very interesting time in our country's history too, and it's just like the Depression was still fresh in the public consciousness, and there was this feeling of panic and desperation surrounding whether money is something that should be hoarded and taken care of, and you couldn't trust banks necessarily, or at least people lost their belief that their money was safe in a bank. And so, they managed to make this, socially conscious film that is also just damn near entertaining, and you kind of see who the bad guys are. You see the gangsters, and there's a robbery, and there's all these factions and elements going on simultaneously, but you understand them. They're not just shoehorned in there. They really all complement each other. It's one of those screenplays. I'm just wow, how did they just manage to pull all of this off?
And make me understand banking in a way that I have never before. I was oh, okay. I actually understand what is going on here. 80%, which is an accomplishment for me. So,
Yeah.
It is very much like watching this, because most of the stuff that we think of as the big Capra movies come out after this. And you see the elements of Capra stuff. I mean, that Walter Houston monologue in the boardroom about what is the point of banking and what is our purpose here is, again, it's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It is these sorts of things that he had and again, you can read up on Frank Capra's political views. There's a mishmash of stuff with him. There's not really a way to put it that he's one side or the other. He kind of had this collection of opposing beliefs. But what does seem to be something that he really loved examining was this myth of America and this myth of what is it that we are supposed to be as humans in this society, specifically in America. And the Walter Houston character is this sort of, he is idealistic. He is at its heart a banker who in many movies probably at that time is evil, but he is the banker with a heart of gold kind of idea. He is the guy who's no, I care about the community, and the point of the bank is to put the money into the economy and to put to give it invest in people, and I'm investing in people, not necessarily in things just to get money. It's we help spur the economy.
Well, and he quotes Alexander Hamilton, right, in what he's doing, right, that we need to follow, and it's this Capra belief that he loves and believes so much in the founding principles of America, right? That this American experiment is so brilliant, and he wants it to work, yet he also understands all of the ways in that it's not working, right? And so American Madness, I feel, I saw so much of, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in this. And even one of my favorites of his that doesn't get talked about as much, which is Meet John Doe. And this sort of idea that maybe if you continue to embrace what America is supposed to be, you can get through, but we just keep putting these roadblocks in the way to stop it from happening.
Yes, and I'm going to continue to be liberal. The trouble with this country today is there's too much hoarded cash. Idle money's no good to industry. Where is all the money today? In the banks, vaults, socks, old tin cans buried in the ground. I tell you, we've got to get the money in circulation before you'll get this country back to prosperity.
Well, who are we going to give it to? Men like Jones? Last week you made him an extra loan of $50,000. Do you call that intelligent banking?
Can't pay his bills.
How do you expect him to pay us?
That's a fair question, Schultz. Now let's see how bad a risk Jones is. What's his history? He's been a successful businessman for 35 years. 2 years ago, business started falling off. Today, Jones needs money. And if he doesn't get it, he goes into bankruptcy and throws 900 men out of work. Answer, unemployment. It also means his creditors aren't paid. They're in trouble. They go to the banks and they're turned down. More bankruptcies. It's a vicious circle, my friends, and the only place to cure it is right here at the source. Help Jones and you help the whole circle. Now, when Jones comes to me, I ask myself two questions. First, is he honest? Yes. Second, is he as good a businessman as he was before? And the answer is he's better. He's not only older and wiser, but his present trouble has taught him precaution. In my estimation, gentlemen, Jones is no risk. Neither the thousands of other Joneses throughout the country. It's they who built this nation up to the richest in the world, and it's up to the banks to give them a break.
You know, his collaboration with Robert Riskin is an interesting one because Riskin, I believe, was far more liberal and just, you know, I don't want to say like idealistic, but just kind of, you know, he kind of might have mirrored a lot of the protagonists we see in Capra's work, but Capra was very conservative and cynical, and so I wonder if they just balanced each other out in a way. They didn't always get along, but I mean, they were really good in terms of like finding that balance, even if I know a lot of people sort of write off Capra too as like being overly sentimental or having these like, kind of out of left field happy endings or something. Like, I don't know. Like, I never really got that vibe that he's like, you know, just like too saccharine or, oh God, like everything is going to be all right necessarily, you know, because a lot of, like I said, a lot of dark stuff happens in the majority of his work.
You could view it as like this idea that the movies are supposed to, if you go that route, it's the idea that the movies are supposed to give you hope, or that the movies are supposed to kind of give you maybe the ending that in real life you can't get, right? And if that's what it is, Capra's providing that. He's providing the ending that you kind of wish might be able to happen. You know, it's like the thing of Clue. It's like, well, this could have happened. It's like, we're just going to do that, because you could also see It's a Wonderful Life in this movie, because that is centered around banking. And, you know, Mr. Potter is like the antithesis of Walter Houston. It's the, you know, everything must be controlled by him in a bad way. Right. Yeah. And destroying the community and destroying the there. And it's like Jimmy Stewart's character is Walter Houston if basically he had just gotten life had just beaten him down like even more. Like, it's like, the investing in the community just isn't happening, or it isn't helping. So there is that kind of like progression you can see through there. But there is this element of like, you know, Jim, as you said, we're coming out of the Depression. It is this idea of like movies giving people hope. It's like maybe we could act like this if we wanted to. We have that ability.
Yeah, I mean, and he has that immigrant belief in America, right? That, you know, Capra was born in Italy. You know, he comes here as a kid. And so there is that part of him that really, truly believes in the greatness of America, even if he's cynical enough to acknowledge that something isn't working here.
Yeah, and you know, there's a moment in this film where he loses all. I mean, Walter Houston loses hope, and we see the gun, and I'm just like, oh, you know. I mean, again, similar to what happens in It's a Wonderful Life, but it's really just, you know, having that happen. I think I've cited this a couple of times in the past on the podcast, but I'm still, anytime I go back and watch The Apartment, when I see things, you know, that I just don't normally expect, as including a suicide attempt or the doctor like just slapping Shirley MacLaine in the face to get her out of her, you know, like almost like comatose overdose state, is just, and I understand like too, this is pre-code, so there's things in here like infidelity and just like gambling and, you know, like the gangsters and like all this stuff is in here. You know, you could think of it maybe as like, oh yeah, there's too many plots going on at the same time, but they're all working to tell an economical story.
Because there really is just one plot going on, right?
Right.
And it's like they find these other ways to sort of, you know, divert off of it and include other characters. But, you know, it's this movie is 24 hours, 36 hours, something like that. And really just carries through like one sort of idea. And it's so economical. And I was shocked watching American Madness. Like, you can see many ways in which Capra is not the most fully formed director yet, right? It doesn't look, you know, it's not quite as crisp as some of his other movies, although it is also a testament to the power of just getting lots of extras in a movie. Like every time they show those mob scenes, you're just like, wow, this is so cool. But the movie is so fast paced and so clipped. And like, it feels very Capra-esque in that way that like, it never stops moving. And it almost never takes a pause, I don't think. Except for like the heist itself, right? Which is silent.
Yeah. Yeah. But he also had like this just naturalistic quality to the way people speak to one another in a way like I was even thinking of at times Altman, just because like people are overlapping over one another at times and just like talking really quickly, but also you understand where everybody's coming from, and you there's that running joke with that one older gentleman who's like every time he tries to say something he gets cut off for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, the guy on the board,
yeah, the guy, one of the board members. They're just like little things like that sort of like distinguish otherwise like forgettable characters, and in this case they're not, because they have like little touches and flourishes like that make everybody stand out in a significant way. And and it's just like you said, Tripp, it is so fast paced. You just don't, and it's not really like screwball level, but man, it's just, there's a lot happening and a lot of people really interacting in interesting ways throughout. But at the end of the day, it's just a really it's almost like a historical documentation of like just Depression era anxiety, but it's also just a fun movie on top of it all. It's a joy. And you have somebody like Walter Huston here too, man. I mean, he's just firing on all cylinders throughout this movie.
It's also a testament to old school filmmaking where you do show those run on the bank scenes. Right? And those are all people. They're people that are there, a lot of extras. You feel the crunch. You feel that you start watching it getting panicked because you're like, oh gosh, there's a lot of like people just suddenly there.
Yeah. I mean, someone's going to get crushed, right? You're just like, everybody just slow down. Like,
someone kind of does, and they never go back to her. But there's definitely a woman who like faints. And I was like, oh, are we not going to just, okay, all right. But it is that sort of a lot of people being there, which is like, now that would just be CGI, or we would just have like, some way to do this. But having that many people, and you feel that kind of, chaos, because most of this movie takes place in that bank. It's that bank. It's, and you get the geometry of everything so that you know where like, those stairs and going up and looking out over it, and where the boardroom is, and where, Walter Huston's office is. It feels like a real place, and it feels then as you're watching it, like that panic starts getting through there. Are they going to pull this out? Is this going to work? Is Walter Huston even going to stay in charge of the bank even at the end of this? Because there's an argument that maybe he should just be like, you know what? This kind of almost ruined my marriage. It ruined I'm spending all of my time there. Maybe I need to take a step back. But, there is that sort of chaos and panic throughout it that you are wondering where in an 80-minute movie, like, how are they going to wrap this up?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if you guys saw on the Wikipedia page, they highlighted that this got one vote on the Sight and Sound ballot. Did you see who the one person who cited this in their top 10 films of all time was?
Wow.
Jim, did I not know that you had a vote?
It is it's Mike Lee cites this.
Wow. That's cool.
And I so see that too, right? This like Mike Lee who can make some very entertaining films while also being rooted in that, social consciousness.
Yeah.
Mike Lee's version probably would have been all about that poor old lady trying to deposit the life insurance money. And like, yes. But
I did want to at least shout out Sterling Holloway. He's not credited in this movie.
No.
But bless this man. He's got a part that it could be just like a part that nobody cares about. But as we're talking about these kind of small characters having a life, he is one of the tellers at the bank who is very talkative and is the one who finds the dead security guard in the morning, and he just keeps retelling the same story. You could push me over with a pin. You could just keeps going, and it's like it's so funny. You just keep watching this going like, I don't know why, and it doesn't matter how many times he does it. I'm like, yep, works for me. It's very funny.
It really does, and like I know this is a strange comparison to make, but I like the way things are, like the way everybody's introduced, kind of reminded me a little bit of Wet Hot American Summer. Like you're getting like an introduction to everybody, and you kind of know who everybody is, including him. And he does have that running joke that wouldn't be out of place in like a David Wayne movie. Yeah. Like he just looks like he would belong at that summer camp too. I don't know. It's just. You're right. Like Sterling Holloway, the voice of Winnie the Pooh is just really great in this too.
I think it's because he gives a lot of Neil Brennan vibes, I believe, is the actor who's like with Zach Orth in Wet Hot. Like he kind of gives that vibe a bit. But I mean, he just kind of works. But again, it's that sort of thing of like having these small characters, and even if we don't know their names, that they have like a character, the woman who's at the, operator station, right? Who kind of starts the panic in some respects.
I love that sequence so much where, like the game of literally the game of telephone, or just, like people are, it's similar to that. What do you call that when like it gets exaggerated going down from one person to another? I know there's an expression like, or at least what that is when, misinformation gets exaggerated from person to person.
It is like a telephone kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's 80 miles. It's not Neil Brennan. That's what I was thinking of. It's 80 miles in Wet Hot. But it does kind of. You're right. It's this kind of thing of like it starts with the truth and then balloons to a level of like bizarre, like suddenly Walter Houston has run off with like millions of dollars of the bank's money, which is obviously very disproven by the fact that he's there like, during all of this. Like you'd think the people that heard that would see him and be like, right, he's right there. He obviously didn't run off with everything.
I mean,
misinformation.
You can't watch a Frank Capra movie without playing, like, which character actor is your best in a movie, right?
Yeah.
One of his joys is just his casting ability, right? And that he fills his movies with all of these small parts, and then he fills them with great actors. I love Robert Emmett O'Connor as the head inspector of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
He always cracked me up. Jonesy from Sunset Boulevard, the Paramount guard.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, but totally. He was the joy to me. Just his exasperation and all of this was always entertaining me.
And do you feel like the way things play out? I mean, again, this is a Hollywood movie. I mean, I can't imagine this movie. Like, I don't know if this movie were made today and, I don't know, distributed by Neon or A24. I don't know what kind of ending it would have. Maybe that Walter Houston would take his own life and it would end tragically. But I think when I look at a movie that I just watched on Letterboxd, it's always fun to see what everybody says, as you guys do on your show, which is great. But most people think it's kind of, mid, more or less. And I wonder if it is just like, a happy ending, everything works out and, everything's okay. But I feel it's earned. I want that for Walter Houston's character in general. So,
and that's what I go to a Frank Capra movie for, right? Like if I want to go back to Mike Leigh, like if I want the more depressing ending, I'll go to a Mike Leigh film, right? But like, to me, that's, I don't think Neon or A20, I don't think Frank Capra would have a place in today's Hollywood. Right? Like, I don't think we would let him make these kinds of movies because movie making has moved away from the optimism and towards his cynical side. Right?
I mean, you look at a movie that came out last year, like Life of Chuck, and what was one of the major kind of knocks on that movie that people had? It was like, oh, this is so saccharine. Oh, it's so, it's too sweet. It's too everything.
They called it Capra-esque in a pejorative way, right?
Exactly.
Whereas I find that so comforting.
and Life of Chuck was the movie that I really loved from last year, actually. But yeah, I think it's also like this movie's under 80 minutes. Like it's gonna wrap up pretty like succinctly, right?
Yeah.
You've got to kind of like get to the ending, and in some respects, the only thing that becomes when you watch this, where it's like it's going to be easy to get answers to the who pulls off the heist and who is involved there. That's gonna figure itself out pretty quickly because there's a couple of very big clues that like kind of are easy. Like once they figure this out, like in 10 seconds, they're like, oh yeah, that's who did it, right? Like they're not that. I think the bigger thing was always are you going to save the bank? Is the bank actually going to get saved? Because you're dealing with, as they mentioned at some point, you're not dealing with logic. You're dealing with people's anxiety. You're dealing with people's fears. And despite the fact that they might even see in front of their faces facts that would mean the contrary, right? You have to somehow figure out a way of, are you going to be able to do this? And you're dealing with the forces of capitalism, right? Of like, he's calling all these people to try to get money, and they're all like, why would I help you? Like, what? Like, that doesn't seem like a good idea. And so I think that is the element that really is the part, as I was watching it, going like, oh, are they going to figure this out? Like, I'm not sure. And of course, they do it in a way to kind of reinforce what Walter Houston said, right? It's you trust the people, and the people will help you, right?
Yeah, if you trust the people, they will return that trust in you. And that's ultimately what happens. I mean, I guess people could dismiss it and just be like, all those people suddenly decide to change their mind and like put all their money back in the bank and believe in that, believe in their institution, I guess. But I mean, I buy it. And that's ultimately what I would want in this scenario. And, it leaves you on a mostly hopeful note.
Well, and the people are acting like a mob, right? So like one person pulls out their money and they're all going to follow him. And then the one guy shows up and is like, I'll trust it. I'll put my money in. And then they're all going to follow him, right? That's the way that Capra sees all of this.
And that the institution is not really what they're saving in some respects. It's Walter Houston. It is, they are so intertwined in some respects that these people are really helping him. Whether the bank goes under or not, I don't think these people are necessarily like, that's why they're doing it. They're doing it because he is so entwined in the bank.
Yeah.
This is him.
Which is what makes Capra such a fascinating, almost unknowable person, right? Because he has this belief that like people are always greater than institutions, right? If we put our faith in the people versus, quote unquote, the institution or, whatever we have there, that it's going to be better, right? That it takes a person to break the corrupt government of Mr. Smith, right? Or it takes caring about people again and seeing your effect on people in It's a Wonderful Life. And, which of course seems to go against, Capra and his hatred for the New Deal and his hatred of FDR. And like, he's such a complex person to deal with it.
Yeah. Full of contradictions in a way. And sometimes that like shows up in his work, but it does make me just more curious to read about him as, and his life and like what he had to say. But, certainly like I mentioned early on, his relationship with the screenwriters and, how he sort of found that balance, but also, later on in his career, kind of lost the plot a little, or at least just didn't make the kind of films that he wanted to and sort of gave up more or less, or at least he tried, but it just, nothing ever came into fruition for him after, like the 60s. So it's really fascinating.
He retires in the 60s almost.
Yeah.
I think out of frustration more than anything else.
He's also the prototype for someone like Francis Ford Coppola in the sense of he creates his own studio. He tries that. And that's what It's a Wonderful Life is. And unfortunately, It's a Wonderful Life kills the studio. Which is kind of the funny thing looking back on it now, this iconic film that we like associate as this huge mammoth thing in the history of film It's like when it came out, it doesn't really do that well, and it sinks the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And you now look at it being like, wow, that's insane. But it's also a movie that is, is sold as this Christmas movie, as, isn't this nice? And Jimmy Stewart it's this sweet and the power of Christmas. And yet also when you watch it, it's 2.5 hours of bleakness for most of it. And is I think colored by his experience in the war, Jimmy Stewart's experience in the war, which 5 Came Back, the great book by Mark Harris, talks about Frank Capra's experiences. It is that kind of, it's a movie that gets sold one way, and then when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is a deeply depressing movie about like this man who keeps wanting to leave this community and keeps finding reasons not to, and then blaming everyone else for it. It's everyone else's fault. It's like, you could leave. Like, no one's actually preventing you from leaving, but he is tied to this community, and the realities are he is important, and that's kind of the end. But yeah, that's where the cynicism of Frank Capra is really unleashed, I think, in that movie, because it's post-war, and it's him and Jimmy Stewart having these experiences that haunt them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's interesting that you mentioned Coppola. I think I heard this on that on Karina's You Must Remember This episode about like later down the road. It was probably after Apocalypse Now that Coppola was trying to get Frank Capra to work with him on Tucker, like a really early iteration on Tucker, the Man and His Dream.
That's fascinating. That's a really interesting,
I know, right? I never would have thought that. And then I was like, I mean, I could see that possibly working out, that story. But I think, again, like they clashed in terms of how they saw, just the car making industry, and and how like Capra had a more cynical point of view about everything, and Coppola didn't, and like just again idealism versus cynicism clashing, but also Capra decided not to work with Coppola because he saw Apocalypse Now and hated it.
Oh gosh! All right, yeah.
A little bit of a different viewpoint on war than maybe what Frank Capra was making in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely came from different places, and certainly a generation gap, possibly too, a little bit. But oh boy, yeah. Everybody seek out American Madness. I think you can get it on Blu-ray on its own. Yeah. I'm so disappointed in myself for sleeping on that Frank Capra at Columbia insane Blu-ray box set.
Oh.
I really wish I'd gotten that just because I'm like, and I'm not a crazy physical media collector, but every once in a while I'm going, when I see a box set like that, I'm like, yeah, I should really just, and then now it's like kind of out of print, and I looked on, places, and it was just like, oh, now you want to pay $400 for this? You can.
It's like, no, I do not. That's not, those, I know I rented it on Amazon.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh yeah.
It's available, but yeah, I think it is a movie that just tends to be, because there's the canon for Frank Capra, and then there's just a lot of other stuff, and that other stuff is where people I don't think dig in as much, which is where American Madness fits in.
I would love to see Criterion or one of those, labels sort of release a good version of it, though. And because I do think it deserves to be spoken of, sort of in the Capra canon. There, I think it definitely. I was blown away by it. So, and a movie I don't know if I ever would have seen had you not recommended it, Jim.
I'm so happy to hear that.
We're going to talk about this. So very happy.
Yeah.
And I'll let one of you take the lead on Arsenic and Old Lace, because I'm definitely a huge fan of it. I'm glad it was one of the more well-attended library screenings that I had, because every once in a while it's kind of hit and miss, and there's a lot of factors into like whether people want to come out and see a free movie at the library. But this was pretty successful, and a lot of younger folks came out for it. So I was very happy to see that.
There's a body in the window seat.
Yes, dear. We know.
You know?
The gentleman died because he drank some wine with poison in it.
You put it in the wine? Just want to know what we're going to do. Can't turn you over to the police. You know how we've always planned to send Teddy to that sanitarium? Charge! Teddy's got to go to Happydale now.
I'm off to Panama. A new lot for the canal, you know.
You mean you're going to bury Mr. Hotchkiss in the cellar?
Karloff had signed an agreement to stay with the show on Broadway, and they were desperate, Capra especially and RKO, to make the movie. They finally, because Cary Grant was available, they shot the picture in 1941. The play went on for another 3-year run, and the movie was released in 44. Priscilla Lane is lovely as always. That's a beautiful set on a soundstage. This is kind of a high-speed version. Grant was unhappy with it, very much like Jimmy Cagney was very unhappy with Billy Wilder's direction in 1, 2, 3. But if you look at 1, 2, 3, Cagney's great, and in here, Cary Grant's great and different than he usually is, because he's like sped up in this picture. Peter Lorre and Raymond Massey bring off the unusually difficult task of being scary, genuinely creepy, but also very funny.
I mean, I'll say, I think Arsenic and Old Lace is the only Frank Capra movie I have shown, well, I should say my wife has shown our kids, and it plays really well for them. Like, my daughter was just like laughing hysterically and at the movie. So it is a movie that I think holds up really well.
It is a movie that my mom also was like, at some point, she's like, she loves this movie. She's like, I think you need to see this. And I remember me and her like sitting in like the family room in our house, you know, my childhood home. And it was like, here we go. We're going to put this on. And yeah, it had me, you know, laughing in stitches. It is one of these kind of perfectly crafted, you know, and based on a play, as we talked about, that just feels like it's just a building and building and building. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny too. Like, both movies we're talking about kind of only take place in one central location or environment. Yeah,
and short period of time too. It's you know, Arsenic and Old Lace is basically a couple hours. It's really just, here we go. We're really just honing in on this like afternoon, evening, and then it's it, right? And it is this kind of bottle, you know, of thing, but that comes from the play, and then you add the fact that the script then is written by Julius and Philip Epstein, which is like, all right, well, that's just gonna, you know, add even more just like immense talent, right? Like, these are people that just, you know, they wrote Casablanca. Like, they just know how to write great dialogue. And then you add a central performance from Cary Grant, who is one of our great actors and is doing such a physical comedy of him constantly bouncing around through everything, and the hairiness that he keeps getting as the movie's going on and on and on, that it seems like this absolutely great alchemy to comedy.
In a performance that Cary Grant called one of his worst.
Yes.
And a movie that he did not like. Yeah. So I mean, I have seen this movie so many times. Like I said, it is one of my wife's favorites. And it's sort of one of her family's like sort of go-to movies. So she very much grew up on it. You know, and I've seen the stage play many times. I pulled out my Criterion Blu-ray of the movie and watched it this weekend with the commentary on, which is a historian sort of talking about the history of it. And he talks a lot about just how uncomfortable Cary Grant was making this movie. And he throws out all sorts of crazy, theories as to why. But a big reason was just that, like, Cary Grant was never the antic one in these movies, you know, that, like, he was always a little more of the straight man opposite, you know, someone else who could sort of be a little wackier. And in this one, he is the center of the wackiness, right? Like, it is all, he is the one who's at 110% running around everybody else. And I think he is so great in this. But he was always just a little uncomfortable with it.
That's interesting to hear, just because, like, I would think, something like Bringing Up Baby, he's got some pretty wacky, over the top, like, I don't know. I mean, I could see he's definitely doing a lot more with his face and running around and with more manic energy in something like this.
Yeah.
But he was in quite a few screwball comedies.
Yeah.
But maybe this is
even
like a different tone.
Katharine Hepburn is sort of the out there character in that.
Yeah,
he's sort of the nerdy one who comes around to being more antic, right? He's driven there by everything else. I suddenly turned gay all of a sudden, right? I always think of this movie. So one of my favorite stories is when Ryan O'Neal was getting ready to film What's Up, Doc? And Peter Bogdanovich set up a lunch between him and Cary Grant. And Ryan O'Neal said, he's pretty much playing the Cary Grant part in that, right?
Yeah.
And he asked Cary Grant, he was like, do you have any suggestions for how to do this? And Cary Grant said, well, wear silk boxers. And to me, this is the ultimate like silk boxers movie, right? Because you just feel like anytime he tries to sit down, he's just sliding off the chair and he's just like gliding everywhere. That there's no traction to him at any point in this movie.
It's such a harried performance, right? Because it is so much being thrown at him, right? And him trying to just accomplish the one mission. Right? Like it starts with the idea, like the singular focus of he finds out his aunts are killing people and then he's now like, okay, great. We're going to commit Teddy. And it sounds like he's going to blame everything on Teddy, right? Like he's already crazy. It's fine. It won't matter. They'll just put him in the institution and we're like, we're all fine. And it's just him constantly trying to accomplish that, thinking that will just solve everything. And it won't. I mean, it's complete chaos, but it's also a
controlled chaos to some degree too. Yeah.
Yes. It's also a very, in some respects, meta, text because it is a play. Cary Grant's character is a drama critic, right? And you have that, what I think is a great scene between him and Peter Lorre and Raymond Massey, where Cary Grant is explaining to him how plays are just so unrealistic and how could somebody not see, and Peter Lorre, is like clearly watching what's happening and just trying to get him to keep going because it's just like he can't even believe it, and Raymond Massey just like taking cues from it, being like, oh, that's actually a really great idea, which on Broadway was Boris Karloff, and Karloff did not appear in this movie, but he gave permission for his name to be used. But
and wasn't allowed to. So because the play was still running in New York when the movie was filmed, so they allowed the right. So it's the two aunts, and Jane Adair and Josephine Hull, and then John Alexander who plays Teddy. The three of them were given 6 weeks off to go film the movie, but they wouldn't let Boris Karloff come out and do it. Because they needed him there to just keep selling tickets. And they saw a dip in ticket sales while they were filming the movie.
Sure.
Because, the original cast wasn't all there. But Karloff had also invested some of his own money in the play. And so was, trying to keep it afloat there too. So.
Yeah, it's funny, Ross, you mentioned that sequence with Peter Lorre and Raymond Massey. In my head, I was like, this kind of reminds me of Scream a little bit with that moment, just like commenting on, like you said, in a very meta manner. Just so it's just kind of funny to think of that because I always like wonder like when was that? And of course, I always laugh at the line in His Girl Friday where Cary Grant actually says he looks a lot like that guy Ralph Bellamy.
It's such a good, thing. And the makeup job on Raymond Massey is impressive. It really doesn't look like Raymond Massey. Like you kind of are like, and Raymond Massey was one of these great character actors for decades in Hollywood. And, he's giving such a good performance in this, but his face is just unrecognizable because of the way that they've, clearly it must have been some mask work or something like that to kind of like distort his features so that it is that kind of interesting, unique look that just is so different than anything. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, watching this movie, and again, like watching it with the commentary on. So, you're seeing everything. You're not hearing a lot of the dialogue. And, I could recite several portions of this movie probably from memory, right? I felt like I didn't need to hear the punchlines again. But just watching it, like the way that the control that Frank Capra has over just the physical images on the screen and the way that he blocks actors and that they move and that the camera just sort of subtly moves with them. Like just watching this movie in that way, it's almost a masterclass in just how to frame comedy and just let it play out in front of you, that you can really see. American Madness, for as great as that is, I mean, there are some scenes where you're like, why is this guy's back to the camera? Or like, there's some weird blocking stuff in there. And then you watch this and you're just, this is an artist at like the top of his game in just selling comedy on screen. And, maybe this does not have, I don't know if Arsenic and Old Lace has the themes that, some of Capra's other films do, and does not have the depth to character, which is not what it's trying to be, right? Joseph Kesselring wrote this play just because he wanted a hit play. That was all he wanted. Was like, I just want to make money and like sell lots of tickets, right? So, this is not maybe, the apex of complex American drama, but it is just funny people being funny at an extreme level. And Capra knows how to handle that and how to frame that.
Yeah, I think, maybe later on in his career, I will say that sometimes his movies go like they feel a little bit longer or overstuffed, and maybe tightening them up with a tighter running time would benefit it. And I did read like, in comparison to the play was a little bit tighter. There was like some things that they expanded on here because they wanted more Cary Grant because he was one of the biggest stars at the time. And I get that too. But at the same time, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't feel too long because of the relentless pace. And, I don't have any issue with that.
Have any of you ever seen this on stage?
No.
Okay. I've seen it a couple times, and the play is very. Mortimer is not the lead of the play. The play is really much more. It is the ants' play, and Mortimer is sort of third around. And I do feel like the movie, because suddenly they have Cary Grant, who was not their first choice. They wanted Bob Hope for the film.
Interesting.
Which I don't think would have worked as well at all. But that the movie does really center Grant and who's the Priscilla Lane. Like they are much more elevated in this than the play. It's a good adaptation, though. I think the Epsteins do a really good job of making it Arsenic and Old Lace, but also, making it cinematic.
And not making it too stagey. And like, because that's the one thing I've often thought about, in like comparison to something like, David Mamet's Oleana, it still feels like a filmed play, but that's not really the case here. Like you're talking about how the blocking and the camera work and everything feels cinematic.
Even though literally 90% of the movie is in that living room.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They still never, like, we go to the kitchen once, but, we never go upstairs to Teddy's room. We don't.
No. Nope. And we barely go down into the cellar. Yeah. The cellar kind of, you see it, but not really. It's It's funny you brought up Peter Bogdanovich because it reminds me of like the play that they're putting on in Noises Off.
Yes.
Where it feels like one of those plays where it's like door opens over here, then somebody runs into this room, and then this door opens up here, and this. It's a very kind of like, because Jonathan's going upstairs, then he's coming down. Then you have people coming up from the cellar. People are coming into the house. Yeah. It is that kind of like doors open, doors closed, doors, kind of chaos. But centered around that kind of living area. So you can imagine it, I would guess, on stage, a lot of that. And Teddy running up the stairs, yelling charge and doing that stuff. My favorite detail of this movie is that Teddy believes he is Teddy Roosevelt, but it's a version of Teddy Roosevelt that somehow knows his entire life.
Yeah.
So it's not that he thinks that he is like a specific time period of Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He is somehow an omniscient Teddy Roosevelt that knows the entire biography.
To the point that at the end, he's like, "Oh, Taft is here. Now I'm done." Right?
Yeah. Is Taft trying to move in?
Time to retire.
Yeah. It's like, yes, and now I go on my hunting trip to Africa. It's like, I will run for a third term, but I won't win. And I was like, I love that like bizarre detail of like that Teddy somehow, he believes he's Teddy Roosevelt, but he also like knows everything, which does lead to like Witherspoon being like, we have too many Teddy Roosevelts. Could he be a Napoleon? We don't have too many Napoleons. We could have another one of those. Like there is, as Tripp said earlier, there's lines in this play that are just, and in this movie that are just like chef's kiss. Insanity runs in my family. It practically gallops is just, it's an unbelievable line. It is a great joke. It is perfectly executed. You're just like, that is so good. And that's why this movie has stuck with people so long too.
I've had nothing but trouble ever since I met you.
Well, it hasn't been any bed of roses for me either. What do you want me to do? I've told you time and again you can have anything I've got.
What have you got? You're all tied up. You belong to your job, and if you quit that, I'd be to blame. You belong to your wife, and if you quit her, I'd be to blame. No matter what happens, I'd be to blame.
But I've done the best that I could. If I give her up, I'm a swine. And if I give you up, but I'm not going to give you
up. What do you want me to be? What can I look forward to? This? Sneaking around, hiding like an alley cat for the rest of my life? No, not me. Read your speeches to your wife.
Stop yelling.
I know what I'm saying. You're poison to me. Poison. I'm sorry I ever met you, but I'm not old. You're not the only man in the world. I don't have to stop living. Not for you, not for anybody.
We're each going to bring up another Capra movie that we think is kind of under the radar, or one that we want to highlight really quick. I'll go first because I just came across this one randomly because, one of Sharon's favorite movies is Stella Dallas. And, I've seen a lot of Barbara Stanwyck films, of course, because you kind of have to if you're a cinephile. But I am just consistently impressed with her in just about everything. So I wanted to bring up this pre-Code Capra film called Forbidden, which surprised me because it really is kind of like a companion piece to Stella Dallas. And yet it's also really interesting to watch Capra take on melodrama. Like, this is almost like a Douglas Sirk film. I was a little bit taken aback. Like, he's doing pretty much a straightforward domestic drama of sorts, in which Stanwyck plays this small town librarian. That another reason why we wanted to see it. But a very interesting tiny library at the very beginning. But she decides to like blow her life savings and go on this cruise because, she's kind of in a rut and, not really feeling fulfilled. And so she goes on this cruise and meets this, I think he's a lawyer. And, they have this really, instant connection and romance that becomes almost this decades-long affair. This goes on and on over time in a very similar way to Stella Dallas, but also Ralph Bellamy is here in a very early role as a newspaper editor. But it's, again, you kind of know how things are going to play out, but it's just you get so invested and involved because of Stanwyck and her going through a lot of ups and downs within this very complicated and difficult relationship, because he's a district attorney that has political aspirations, and of course, if it comes out that he's been having this affair this whole time, that's going to ruin everything, and they also have a daughter together. So yeah, it's really surprising, again, for a 90-minute movie, how invested I was. And yet, yes, it is kind of a weepy melodrama that is meant to get you to feel certain emotions at certain times. But I found it all to work very well. And again, Barbara Stanwyck as your lead, you can't go wrong. So it's a really interesting kind of out of left field movie for Capra that I can see people kind of dismissing, maybe just because it's not honing to his strengths. But I found it to be quite good. So I just wanted to bring that one up as one people should see. Forbidden.
Oh, I was unaware of this movie.
I know, right?
Too,
he's got so many movies.
I just added it to my watch list. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me know what you think. Yeah.
Came out the same year as American Madness. So.
Wow, what a year for Capra.
Yeah.
Man, it's it absolutely, that's it. So as I already mentioned earlier, so I guess the one I'll talk about, it's I wouldn't say it's unsung, but I rewatched it because that's what I wanted to, and that was It Happened One Night, and that movie, it just, and again, it's interesting. You compared that we did American Madness, which does have Walter Houston, but doesn't have the same level of star power that something like Our Second Old Lace has Cary Grant, or It Happened One Night has Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. And you want to talk about, capital M, capital S movie stars. The two of them are that. Yes. And Capra just knows there is ways that he shoots Claudette Colbert in this movie that's just unbelievable. And just with a look, you can tell everything of what she's thinking. And it's so amazing. And Clark Gable is so funny. And the two of them, the chemistry that they just seem to naturally have, it's why you buy at the end that they end up together. Because it just feels like you're like, well, yeah, you should be. It's like it just works. It's the guy that she kind of needed that is like going to be like, not just let her get away with anything, right? But he's also like practical with certain things. And she is the person that's going to soften him. And that he needs that kind of like moral compass at points that he's just kind of, lacking. I mean, if you want to see a perfect comedy scene, the whole hitchhiking scene is amazing. And he's going through all the different types of ways that you hitchhike and all. I could write a book. I could write it, and he just can't get a single thing. And obviously she stops a car in 10 seconds. Like it is unbelievable. And you see, there's a reason why this movie wins all these Oscars. There's a reason why, 80, 90 years later, we're still talking about this film as kind of that pinnacle of what Capra can do. And it's interesting because it's not necessarily like some of his other stuff in the sense of there isn't as much, aggrandizing. There is a bit of it, right? There is this sort of poking at wealth and on privilege, but it really is more this movie about this romance that just ends up happening. So yeah, it's on the Criterion Channel. It also has one of his silent shorts on there, which is
there's so much you can deep dive in. Like easily another director, you can do another 2-parter, 3-parter, because you have like his war films that came out, and you have the silent era. But yeah, I mean, there's just something, again, so beautiful and timeless about this movie. It's like, the pitch perfect romantic comedy that you can go back to at any time and just experience pure joy from beginning to end. And even as something as recently as I'm rewatching for the upcoming 1996 episode, Albert Brooks's Mother, there's a really funny joke where like she's dividing the fridge in half.
Yes.
Like all your food can go here and all my food can go there. And he says, "Oh, it happened one night in the fridge."
It's a whole of Jericho.
Exactly you know exactly what he's referencing.
Yeah, and just one of those movies, like, because it was so revolutionary at the time for, Clark Gable in his undershirt, right, and her pulling up her. I mean, wouldn't you just love to go back in time and like sit opening night in that movie and just hear and feel people like, the sexiness coming off that screen, right? Of like, oh my God, what is happening here? It does feel like a huge turning point.
It does. Absolutely.
It's funny, Jim, because you started talking about Albert Brooks, and when you were talking about Forbidden, all I kept thinking of was Lost in America. Just wanted to be like, so she used all of her nest egg. Would you say that all of her nest egg would be gone, and then that is what seems to be missing here, is the nest egg?
See, just don't give up everything and think you're gonna like find fulfillment and happiness in that way, because it's just never the case. It really
doesn't work. It doesn't go well.
No, but that's a perfect movie in every way. And spoiler alert, I think it's still my favorite. Like, it's ranking Capra is almost impossible. Because I do think my top 3 are all masterpieces in my mind. So, Tripp, what would you like to highlight from his career?
I think my top 6 are all masterpieces. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna separate one masterpiece from another. But so I'm gonna go directly between you guys. Jim, you picked a 32 film. Ross, you went with 34. I'm gonna go with 1933's Lady for a Day.
Ooh, I haven't seen this. All right.
It is the second Frank Capra, Robert Riskin film. Adapting here Damon Runyon. And so it's sort of a mixture of these great American voices. And it's May Robson plays an Apple Annie who, for all sorts of different reasons, she has to pretend that she is like a high society lady. And she sells apples to these gangsters. So these very Runyon-esque, right, Guys and Dolls-esque, gangsters with names like Dave the Dude. And so they sort of set her up in this mansion, and they all pretend that, she is this high society lady, when of course she isn't. And to quote something that Ross and I say often on our podcast, all sorts of hijinks ensue. Like, it's but it is a really funny, just again short, hour and a half comedy, also with some stuff on its minds about sort of society and what we say and what it America in the Depression times. And it's May Robson, who, if you've seen a bunch of 30s movies, you have seen her as like everybody's aunt. In some movie, but she is just phenomenal in here. I want to say she was 76 or something, and at the time was the oldest nominated Best Actress nominee ever. It's a really delightful film. His last film, Pocketful of Miracles, is a remake of this. I've never seen.
Okay.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that movie. That is like it might even be a musical. I don't know, but yes, with Betty Davis in that part. But it's a lot of fun. It's again one that doesn't quite get talked about, but I always think of as one of my favorite Capras.
Yeah, there's still a lot more I want to check out, obviously, and. I know people have. It's one of those cases too when you think of someone like Billy Wilder down the road with something like Buddy Buddy. Just kind of like, I don't want to say they lost the plot or whatever. It's a matter of, I don't know if it's just not their time anymore, or it's like
exactly.
It's because I don't want to believe in someone like Tarantino who just goes, well, I don't want to keep going on and on and on because I'm going to eventually make a bad movie or whatever because of my age, But it's just more of a curiosity of down the road, like checking out, like one of those films that he did later on with like Frank Sinatra with Hole in the Head or something. you know, maybe not be well regarded like the ones we're talking about, but just more of like, well, let's just see, you know, even if it's not great, I'm sure it's still got interesting things to, you know, to witness within his career, especially when you get, you know, so heavily involved in like just dissecting exactly, you know, him as a person too. So, yeah, I'm just curious about that one. Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing that one up too.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I strongly recommend that one.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a Wonderful Life. Pretty wonderful movie. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it or seen it, but yeah.
Kind of a good film. Who would
yeah. Just don't colorize it.
Oh boy. I mean, there's also stuff. I mean, we didn't even like bring up like You Can't Take It With You, right? Which was also like a big one for him. You know, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town.
That's his Best Picture winner, right? And
yeah,
You Can't Take It With You, a Pulitzer Prize winning play that he adapts. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, a movie that will Tripp and I will get to at least semi talk about later this season on our podcast.
Yay!
The Adam Sandler
to bring it full circle to Adam Sandler, because Adam Sandler would remake that. And, you know, or like Meet John Doe, right? Like there is these sorts of like totemic quote unquote Capra movies that are really fascinating to watch. And sometimes are even fascinating to watch, even if when you watch them, you're like, oh, this, I don't know if this like the politics or the social examinations are working the same way, but it is these like they are these interesting time capsules of, you know, either pre or post-war America and these sorts of thought processes that were going on there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And again, like, as I said, if folks are really wanting to learn more about Frank Capra as a person, there's just an incredible summation from Karina Longworth that I'll be linking to that I think really also puts a lot of things that we talked about about the movies in particular, even more in context. And, you know, just learning about, like, he's a complicated dude. He really was. He's, you know, he has his issues. He struggled a lot with, you know, working with certain people at certain times, and just, you know, kind of became, I don't know if he started out as a curmudgeon, but he certainly became one. And just, like resenting Hollywood and, you know, kind of just saying, well, you know, I don't know if, you know, movies are ever going to be what they used to be anymore, so why bother? But, you know, it's interesting just to, like, highlight these particular films, but also just, again, learn more about him. It's something that I plan to do myself. But let's just, go ahead and reveal, as hard as it is, our 3 favorite Capra movies. It probably should be just 5 or 6 or 10. I'm going to go with American Madness right now at this point in time as being my number 3, just because, it's so fresh and one of those discoveries that I'm going to cherish probably forever and look forward to recommending to other people. And, you know, 2 and 1 are, again, they're just so interchangeable. Depends on my mood, but It's a Wonderful Life and It Happened One Night just happen to be, like, perfect movies in every single way. Those are the Capra masterpieces. But like all the ones we've talked about here are all great too. So it's hard to just like pin it down. But right now, those are my 3.
Oddly enough, my 1 and 2 are the exact same and in the exact same order, which is It Happened One Night is 1, It's a Wonderful Life is 2, and then my 3 is the other movie we talked about, which is Arsenic and Old Lace. I just it doesn't matter how many times I've seen it; it just makes me laugh so much. And it's no shame to the numerous other films that he's made, but it's like those 3 just happen to have all of the right alchemy for me, at least, and just work so well. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Leave it to me to shake everything up here.
All right. Yes, we like that.
I will put It Happened One Night at number 3. I do really think that it is, you know, about as perfect a romantic comedy as you can get. But my 1 and 2 are the Misters. It's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is number 1 for me. It always has been. I just think that it's, you know, as an Aaron Sorkin fanatic, to me it is like the perfect Aaron Sorkin film, right? I love those sorts of movies, and it's what I want to believe in. And then Mr. Deeds Goes to Town is number 2 for me. I really love that movie. It's one that I stumbled on seeing in a movie theater in college without really knowing anything about it, and was really just like blown away by like, why isn't this talked about enough? And I think it might be, to me, his funniest film, maybe. And I think it's Gary Cooper's greatest performance. And I mean, both of those. Jean Arthur might be my favorite old Hollywood actress. So,
well, I can
anything she is in will move up the list to me. So yeah.
Knowing this now, I am sure the Mr. Deeds conversation will go just swimmingly.
Yes, I know.
I'm sure you will find that movie to be so reverential to the Frank Capra classic, and no problems, no issues whatsoever.
Not at all.
Not at all. No.
I have a soft spot for. I sound like Paul Thomas Anderson when he was talking about how much he loves Big Daddy, but I also do have I like some of Sandler's early movies, and not all of them, obviously, but there's some charm to that one. I don't think it's a great movie by any stretch, but it makes me laugh. It's, and John Turturro, not to spoil anything, but there's some pretty big laughs in that one.
He's given a big performance in that one.
I mean, let's be honest. There is a chance that Mr. Deeds could end up in the top 3 Stephen Brill movies of all time.
Sure.
More out of something has to be on that list. But you never know.
I do also warn you, Tripp, you have put out in the universe that, Aaron Sorkin, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Don't give him ideas, Tripp. Don't give him ideas.
Don't give him ideas.
Look, next thing you know, you're going to hear Aaron Sorkin like remaking Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and I'll be calling you up first to immediately be like, see what you've done. See what you've done.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because of the times we're living in that I would probably just break down and cry too much. It's like with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, just knowing where we are politically at this point in time. It's just, I mean, again, every day there's something to get upset about. And, I might as well just all, take a stance right here and say abolish ICE.
Yes.
Let's just go there right now.
I think we need a little more than a filibuster, though.
Yeah. I would agree. There's a lot going on that I just really upset about, and rightfully so, and just hope things change. But we need a Mr. Smith. We need Capra's optimism, in some capacity, at least in terms of how his movies end. But let's just talk about your wonderful show and where people can find it. I go from abolish ICE to that, right? That's a great transition.
That's a transition right there. Wow. Our podcast, A Tripp Through Comedy, in which we look at studio comedies made. We started in 1999. We are in 2002 at the moment.
Woohoo!
Jim, you have graciously given your time to come on 2 episodes. So if people are looking for your episodes, they can look up Go, and they can look up Wet Hot American Summer, which, again, Wet Hot American Summer, a personal favorite, I think, of both Jim and myself.
Yes.
And
did you know? And by the way, sorry to interrupt, really quick. There's a new David Wayne movie playing at Sundance.
I am very aware. I'm very aware. It did not have virtual tickets available. I was saddened.
Yeah,
I believe they're also doing something there for the 25th anniversary of Wet Hot too.
Yes,
I saw something. So
yes,
a screening maybe, and he was hiding copies of the soundtrack around or something. So maybe there'll be some focus this year on that too. So.
Yay.
I will say, Jim, there might be an episode for you this season to come on, because as people who listen to our show or might remember, or you might even remember, Jim, you obviously came on Go, and as part of our show, you recommend a movie at the end of each episode to pair with it. Do you remember which movie you paired with Go?
Oh my gosh, I don't. I'm shocked.
Well, it is a 2002 comedy, and that would be Rules of Attraction.
Oh boy.
Which, yes, is coming up this season. So you might be the first guest to somehow go full circle.
Wow.
And not only be on an episode, recommend a movie, and then be on the episode of the movie which you recommended.
Now I think I just have to. I don't know if I have a choice at this point in time, and it's a movie that I'm terrified to revisit.
It's a doozy. I will say that it's something. And you want to talk about people who obviously are totally controversy free. Bret Easton Ellis is, definitely a person that has no problematic things whatsoever associated with him. That is a comedy, technically. So it will be on this season. So again, connecting this podcast even more to ours.
Wow.
You get, Mr. Deeds, and now you get a Rules of Attraction. So, obviously, hopefully
it's
we can
all
have you on for
connected.
that.
It is all connected.
Way to ambush him on the air, Ross, so he can't say, no now.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I slowly but surely, do that. But it is a perfect full circle moment. That's why I was like, I wonder if Jim even remembers that he did this.
Yeah.
I recommended it with reservations.
I'm sure.
But also it's an interesting time capsule of that time and place in a way, and
we specialize in interesting time capsules of a time and place.
Well,
we have seen several of those.
It also comes full circle because who's in Rules of Attraction for a very brief and memorable scene. Fred Savage, star of The Wizard.
From The Wizard.
Yeah,
there we go.
Man.
It all comes back. So
there we go. Everything really comes back to The Wizard with our podcast.
It all comes back to The Wizard.
Should.
We should say A Trip Through Comedy you can find wherever you listen to podcasts. It is a trip with 2 P's, a pun on my name, Through Comedy. Or you can find us on social media at ATTC Pod. So if you want to follow us on Instagram or Blue Sky are the main ones there.
Absolutely. There's
the least problematic social media out there.
Yes. We also, depending on when this episode is coming out and when you're listening to it, I think the last episode that came out that Jim you were mentioning is Crossroads, the Britney Spears vehicle. That what a film.
I've never seen it, but now I'm a little curious to see it. I mean, that's one thing I do like about both of you is that you will find things to appreciate, even if the whole movie itself isn't, incredible or amazing work of art. It's still you like highlight things that I kind of go, oh, well, that you make me want to see a movie that I also kind of dismissed, and said, I don't know if that's worth my time, but now I kind of think it is. So that's also a joy of that show.
Yeah, a much more watchable film than I think most people give it credit for. So
It is the joy, and I say it on our podcast many a time. It is no more joy to me than finding a film that I am stunned to find out that Tripp liked more than I think he would.
Yeah,
and it is. Yes. It has been the worth, even when he likes it more than I. Whether it doesn't matter. There is a shocking amount of stuff that you can watch these movies and appreciate with. And then, yes, we do have to watch sometimes some really bad stuff that, is best left in the trash bin of history. But it's that kind of interesting thing. And as we're at a point in history where comedy, I don't think is as viable at the box office as much. We did get a lovely thing in The Naked Gun last year, but that doesn't tend to be where studios are putting their money. It is nice sometimes to remember that at one point it was. We used to get big comedies that made serious money at the box office and did well.
Yeah, and then
in a couple weeks we'll talk about Sorority Boys. So,
God!
Oh no! Yep, that's true. That is true.
But it's not all.
No,
you know what I would value as a bonus episode from the both of you, because I'm pretty sure it's going to get an official release soon this year. But it's been a rough time, and as you said, in general, like the comedy genre isn't as strong right now, and people aren't really gravitating to certain ones at the theater. But man, the new Matt Johnson, the Nirvana, the band, the movie,
heck
show.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Heck yeah!
I'm excited about that.
It is so fucking funny.
Jim, I've seen it too. I am so excited for more people to see that movie. It is insane to me that they made that. It is insane to me that they were able to get away with a lot of the stuff that they did. And I was lucky enough to see it with a Q&A with them. And they are
me too.
When they did that tour that they've done last year. Yes, it is coming out, I believe, Valentine's Day weekend. Or President's Day weekend, whichever one you want to consider it. I am very excited for more people to see that movie because it is one of those things that, like, I think you need to see it to fully believe that they were able to do everything that they did in that movie on what I can only assume was a budget of $10.
I mean, I have to say, I think big budget, mainstream comedies definitely are having a hard time. But, like Ross said, last year we did get The Naked Gun. I stand by Spinal Tap 2. I think there's a lot of really fun
I should finally watch that.
Funny stuff in there.
I've been putting that off just because I'm like, I don't think that's going to be. But some people said it's pretty good.
I also feel like, One of Them Days was a hysterical comedy.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes, that was very good, too.
Both Twinless and Splitsville, I really loved that. I do think there's a lot of mainstream comedy in there, or mainstream-esque comedy coming from the indie world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Friendship also, the Tim Robinson.
Yeah, I wasn't as high on Friendship as other people, but
it has some moments. It definitely has moments. It's so funny, like with Tim Robinson, he can make me laugh hysterically, and then sometimes I just go, was that supposed to be funny?
It's a very specific, whatever I've talked about with that movie with people, I'm like, it's a very specific type of humor. And you're either in on it, which look is the thing of our podcast, right? It's that comedy is so subjective, and you could two people could watch the exact same movie, and one person can find it hilarious, the other doesn't, and both can be right. Like, it's just whatever tickles your funny bone. And Tim Robinson is a very specific type of humor. I know people that can't handle it. They're like, it's just too awkward. It's just makes me uncomfortable, and it hits me right in a sweet spot at times that that movie had me laughing immensely at points. But
and also a movie I just caught up with this weekend, The Baltimoreans. Also,
that's a really joyful movie
really
too.
I
love
the comedy in that. So
really wanted to see that.
You have to look where you look around and
you will love that one, Ross. I have a feeling.
Yes, I do.
As a former person who lived in Baltimore, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I agree with you, Tripp. And there is a lot of really great kind of smaller comedies that are coming out. There's stuff that
are very much echoing, I think, a lot of the sort of mainstream comedies, of 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I would like to see some more, get into the Cineplex, but we got to leave as many screens open as we can for our superhero movies. So.
Well, look, Avengers Doomsday, everyone's returning. Tripp. I believe Laura Palmer's coming back for Avengers Doomsday. Everybody.
Freddie Got Fingered is going to be in there. So
everybody is in Avengers Doomsday or in the Odyssey. Those are the two options. You're either in. We don't get another Knives Out movie, so at least this year. So we can't the dueling massive casts of very impressive people. I guess it's.
Do you know who should be in Avengers Doomsday? Undercover Brother.
Yeah. Yes.
I agree.
Yes. Undercover Brother will return. Are we breaking news right now, Tripp? I think this is it.
There we go. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, Undercover Brother will return in Avengers Doomsday.
I applauded. I think it was you, Tripp, that said Undercover Brother is a funnier movie than Austin Powers. I applauded when you said that.
Yeah, I agree. I really do.
I agree.
Yes. I'm looking forward to, I'm sure there will be some really good comedies this year that will
I hope
hopefully
so.
be coming out.
Because the next official episode here on Directors Club, I'm spending all of February watching 1996 movies because at the very end of the month, the insanely long, epic retrospective episode with Colin Suter and Eric Childress, in which we go back 30 years to cover an entire year in film. And it is insane that we do this, but it's so much fun and people love it. And one comedy that'll definitely make my top 10 is Kingpin. I love Kingpin.
Fun movie.
So I miss that era to some degree. I mean, a lot of it's kind of like, woo, I can't believe they got away with it, but
there is many a time on our podcast where we suddenly are like, oh, I'm not sure that would necessarily work now, but you know what? Good on them. I'm looking up 1996. I know for a fact there's a comedy that would be on both Tripp and mine's top 10 from that year. I know it very well that it would be.
That would be The Birdcage, right, Ross?
Correct. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Correct.
That's definitely one of the all-time greats too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Mother, like you mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah. Mother's delightful. There's definitely some, 96. I wouldn't say is a great year for movies, but there's some really like high quality things throughout that I'm excited to catch up with, and certainly was the year of Edward Norton. There's a lot of things that are worth discussing about that particular year, and it's always a blast to do this with Eric and Colin. Yeah.
And you could argue the funniest movie of the year is also the best movie of the year, and that's Fargo.
Sure.
Yeah.
For a movie that succeeds at so much is still hysterical at every turn. Yeah.
Jim, can I give you
I don't want to spoil your episode.
Oh, it's okay.
Can I give you a movie to try to seek out from 1996? That's a very small movie that I know Mariah Gates also recommended to me to check out, and I've recommended on our podcast. Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny because Bill Ackerman, my buddy, recommended me see that one too, and he actually got me that Blu-ray as a present, and I have it on my pile waiting to be watched.
It is a great lo-fi film that the 90s is filled with so many great independent filmmakers, and I think this is a great example of such a funny and interesting and fascinating lo-fi movie that I believe takes place in Minnesota, because I believe that's where Sarah Jacobson was at the point. Yes, but it is a really interesting movie about teenage sexuality, female sexuality, and it's probably more frank about all of that than anything in the mainstream world was dealing with at that time. I don't know if it'll make your top 10. I don't know. But it's definitely a movie that I hope gets championed for more people to seek out, because it is such a small movie that I don't think many people know. And the director tragically passed away young.
Yeah, that's sad.
So,
Jim, do you go by U.S. release or international release? Or
yeah, we try to go by U.S. release, and sometimes we just have to add things. Like I think I added the Paradise Lost documentary because that was a significant film in a lot of ways for me. So there's things that we add just to add them to the list sometimes.
Then I'll have to recommend a French film to make sure you check this.
Okay,
and that is well, I mean, because Ross does indie comedies. I do French films. Le Cérémonie by Claude Chabrol.
Oh,
I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't, but
Isabelle Huppert, a really great, sort of pseudo thriller.
That's not on Criterion, is it? No,
I believe it is. So yeah, it's on the channel right now.
Oh, okay, good.
So yes,
no, I've been meaning to see that for sure. So thanks for that recommendation.
That's one I would definitely. It's
of course,
95 film, but it's 96 in the States. So,
and Tripp, of course, we could both recommend Muppet Treasure Island.
Yes, there you go.
A 1996
I like that.
movie.
Yeah,
I do actually like it. It is not a joke. I really do actually enjoy that movie so much. It's such a. I just know Tripp is also a huge Muppet person, as we came on for Frank Oz. It would be remiss if we're talking 1996 and not mention what was probably my introduction to Tim Curry, which is Muppet Treasure Island. You know, I'm the right age. It's like, shockingly, as a 6-year-old, my parents did sit me down and go, here's Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I saw Clue like way too many times as a kid. Like, I know that by heart now.
Yeah. That's a great Tim Curry performance and unbelievable. But yeah, I was looking through my letterbox as we were talking about this and looking at what I've watched from 1996, and I think you've got some really great choices.
It's going to be a great discussion.
I can't wait. 100%. Yeah, I can't wait, and that's why I'm putting this out probably like February 1st or 2nd or something along those lines, and then basically just going to watch 96 movies until we record that episode. So thanks so much, guys, for being on this wonderful episode. I had a blast talking Capra and comedy in general with both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you as always, Jim. It's a pleasure.